Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey y'all, I'm KC.
And I'm Tyler.
And this is the elk hunting series from the Element Podcast.
If you want to get on elk, it helps to hang with dudes that know elk.
And that ain't us, but luckily the dudes that know elk have cell phones and we called them up.
So whether you're a veteran of September or you're just cutting your ivories in the elk woods, you're going to hear something here that'll help you get the full draw this fall.
If you find this podcast helpful, poke that subscribe button and go check out our elk hunting playlist on YouTube. Now let's rock and roll. All right, guys, on the show right now, we have got my buddy Connor Clark with Trader's Rendezvous. What's happening, man?
Oh, not a lot, man. Just sitting here in a rainstorm.
A rainstorm? Lucky you. Dude, it hadn't rained in like 15 days or more here.
It's monsoon season here. We get it every afternoon. It's been kind of socked in here.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a northern term. We don't get to hear very often.
I hadn't heard that since I was on a sheep hunt in British Columbia, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's cool. So how's the moisture this time of year up there, man?
It's pretty good. I'd say we're slightly below average. It's definitely a climate where it's one extreme or the other, so it's probably good that we got an average winter. You know, last year we got a lot of snow, and everything was super green. Feed was really good. Lots of water. This year, I'd say, yeah, it's right about average. These summer rainstorms are definitely helping out the ranchers and helping out all the habitat that we've got around here. So it's good to get a little rain for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. And man, you're a jack of all trades when it comes to the outdoors. You know, you kill some giant mule deer. You are the lucky recipient of a Colorado Bighorn sheep tag this year, and we're going to have to definitely talk about that. But
yes, sir,
we got to talk a little bit of elk, too, because, man, I actually didn't get to fill my tag last year, and I have the biggest itch that I have to scratch this year, man. Golly. I'm telling you, last year I trophy hunted, and this year it might be the first cow I see. Going down. First calf.
I know, man. It's hard to pass a rib cage.
Oh, it is, dude. That's yumming. So, how'd you get into the elk stuff? Were you born into it and been doing it your whole life?
Yeah, my grandpa was an outfitter back in the day. They actually they moved from Ohio when my grandpa was probably about 25, and came out here and he started, we whitetail hunted back east, but he came out here to kind of immerse himself in the Western hunting. And so he bought an outfitting business. So my whole life, it's just been part of it. And I grew up in a family of rifle hunters. My grandpa was a gunsmith. No one else will touch a bow. So I was the black sheep of the family when I started hunting with a bow, just because I wanted that experience of September, and I also wanted to be able to draw a tag sooner. You're gonna, most of the time, not necessarily for elk, but most of the time you're gonna be waiting longer for rifle tags than you are for bow tags. So I decided to pick up a bow, and I don't know if I'll ever hunt rifle elk again. I shouldn't say that. I still like shooting stuff with a gun, but there's no experience like September.
Airbow, bro. You ever heard of an airbow?
An airbow, what's that?
some new finagled thing they made illegal.
It's like a pellet gun, right?
It's like a CO2.
Yeah. I don't. Is it legal here now?
I don't know.
Is it Alabama or something?
KC and I saw some hunting shows that they were really promoting the airbow last year during hunting season, and we were laughing pretty good. We were laughing pretty good.
Yeah. See, Colorado's it's a very like if it's a primitive weapon hunt, it's going to be they've got some restrictions on it that's going to make it like no crossbows. You can use a crossbow during rifle season, but that's it. And then the muzzleloader stuff, like we can't even have scopes on our muzzleloaders. It's all open sight. It's a true primitive weapon hunt, so they're pretty strict on that here.
Yeah, I think that's cool, man. Like,
yeah.
I'm all about opportunity, but the good thing about Colorado is it is opportunity. You can go buy a rifle tag if you want to. So why not make these primitive weapons restrictive? Because that's what they're supposed to be. Like they've got muzzleloaders nowadays that are shooting 350 yards.
Yeah, and see, that's too much. Like with an open sight, you max yourself out at 150. There's people who say they'll hit 200, but when you're looking through an open sight at 150 yards, that's a poke.
Oh yeah,
dude, 80 yards is good for me. I can't get my granules in there the right. It's a tough deal, but no,
for sure.
That's cool, man. And I can't remember because I've never actually drawn that tag. But is that a draw only for muzzleloader for elk in Colorado?
Yep, draw only. So they've got some OTC archery, OTC rifle, but yeah, muzzleloaders all draw. And there was a push, like I think last year they were trying to get like muzzleloaders put on for where they have OTC antelope and OTC elk, and it's like that's not going to work. It's just not the same hunt. Like a muzzleloader is definitely a primitive weapon hunt, but you try and get within 100 yards or 80 yards of an antelope with a bow, and it's not easy, Yeah,
and you did that hunt last year, right?
Yep, I did that hunt last year, and that was fun. I mean, that's probably one of my favorite hunts I've ever been on. And the pronghorn, they don't get a lot of recognition from the hunting world, I don't feel like, but man, I totally think that everybody should go on an archery hunt. You'll want to jump off a cliff after the first couple of days.
Perfect. I love
it. But it is very mentally frustrating. But the cool part is you're seeing animals. So it's like you may get 4 or 5 stalks a day, and like what better practice? And the only reason I did that actually was for a sheep tag. If I ever were to draw one, I wanted spot and stock practice on the ground, because elk's a lot different calling them in, as opposed to sneaking into their bedroom. So I got the archery antelope and archery deer last year to kind of just give myself some spot and stock practice, and then this year I drew the sheep tag. So I mean, it worked out for sure.
Freaking fell into place. So
man, I'm just waiting for the day that my plans work out like that. Every year, me and KC start going, all right, we're going to shoot 17 deer this year. If we can just hit all these places and within 4 days kill, we can move on to this state.
Yeah, you guys do lots of moving around. That's for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's what happens when you actually live somewhere where the hunting isn't very good. You do that, but when you're born in the Gunnison Valley, yeah.
But you know what? I still love to go hunt whitetail. It's a totally different hunt, but that's something we don't get here. So it's like it's cool to go do that, just as opposed to what I'm used to.
Yeah, for sure, man. So that's kind of been my introduction into the elk stuff. I grew up a whitetail hunter, but my family's been going up there since the 70s, and seen all the changes, and just Colorado, how it's morphed from a mule deer state to an elk state, and now they're trying to manage for the deer again. And I know that you are at heart. Well, don't let me speak for you. At heart, what do you like to hunt, sir?
Muleys all day.
Yeah.
All day. I mean, I love elk, but man, I don't know. There's just something about mule deer that just drives me nuts. I don't know what it is, but I mean, the elk it's a lot of work, and it's frustrating. I like to be able to, I always tell everybody I'm an awful elk hunter. If they're not talking, geez, count me out, and that's why.
It's like us with turkeys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, geez. I mean, it's like when they're not talking, I just want to hang it up. I'm like, I can't do anything about it, but then you get into those situations where it's just a bugle fest and it's the coolest experience of your life. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not poop on elk hunting. It's just, it's a lot different. They're two completely different animals, two completely different behaviors, habitats. I mean, it's totally different, but elk is, definitely below muleys though. And it's funny because my dad has always been a huge mule deer hunter, and him and my brother, they're all about the elk. They switched over. And so whenever it's shed season, they want to go look for elk sheds, and I want to go look for deer sheds. I can't get anybody to come with me looking for deer sheds.
You might be talking to your next deer shed partner here.
All right.
I mean, I've got like 10 points for deer in Colorado, so I got to start figuring some stuff out.
Yeah, well, yeah, once you got enough points, a guy that'll help you out.
Yeah. So in like 50 years, right? Was the point?
Yeah, exactly. That's about what it is for non-resident.
Yeah, man, no kidding. Let's talk a little bit about that. Shed hunting is a huge part of your life. Your family kind of has a business around it too. Well, first, tell me about the shed hunting stuff.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the landscape of shed hunting has changed so much. Like so I'll start off with this. My dad, when they were in Gunnison, and he was probably 10 or 12 years old, his dad would saddle him a horse and throw him a pack horse on, and he'd ride the rims around Blue Mesa, which is a big reservoir we've got here in Gunnison.
Oh, beautiful spot, man.
Yeah. And he'd load up that pack horse with sheds, and he'd go drop them in his mom's yard. And they lived up Steuben Creek, which is by the lake. And then he'd take his pack horse back up, fill it up again, drop it off. So he just did it because he liked doing it, and they weren't worth a dime back then, And then one day when he was about 18 or something like that, he saw a guy buying antlers, and he was like, "What?" And so he asked the guy, he goes, "You buy these things?" And he said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, geez, I got a pile that's twice the size of that in my mom's yard if you want to buy it." And he got like 25 cents pound and was just completely thrilled with it. And I know there was some absolute giants in there,
Oh, yeah.
And that's how he got into the business. He kind of realized that there was a market and started his business around that. And then it evolved to the largest display of mounted trophies and antlers in Colorado.
Yeah.
If not the U.S., we say Colorado because that's a safe bet, but.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the shop is like pretty astounding when you walk in, and it's cool because I've been going there since I was like, I guess 7 years old was the first time I went there. My granddad took me. My dad and uncle or something were hunting mule deer and elk. It's back when you could get both OTC, I think, and And so we just went into town one morning and had breakfast at a cafe, and then went in, and then I hadn't been in like 15 years, and went as an adult, and man, it was it's everything it ever was, and then you and I got to talking and whatever. That's been a few years back, but it's an amazing place, man, and it's not just antlers. Y'all got taxidermy from all over the country.
All over the world. I mean, we got Marco Polo, Nile crocodiles, African lions, Kodiak brown bears. I mean, we're kind of full to the brim, though. I mean, we actually had to, when this whole COVID thing came down, we decided to do a little renovation on the back room. So we actually moved 80 mounts out of the store and built a 36 by 14 foot shed. And it looks like we threw a deck chair off the Queen Mary. I mean, it doesn't even look like we freed up any space at all. So it's pretty crazy in there. But yeah, that's how he started the business, was doing that. But I used to go out shed hunting with him, when I was a kid, me and my brother, and we'd go out. We wouldn't start going until school got out. So mid-May, we'd start going with him and would find sheds wherever we went. We'd go June, July, August. We'd go all the time. And now the shed hunting is like, I mean, it is competitive. I wake up in the middle of the night, like, worrying about people getting into my spots, especially with the May 1st thing, it's like, and then this year it really rubbed me wrong this year because everybody was pinned up from COVID. and started going out and being in the business that I am. I can't risk that going out early and looking for sheds, even though I'd like to. And I got into my number one spot, and it was tracked out big time. I was
man.
pretty bummed about that. But then about 2 hours into it, when I'm saying every cuss word in the book, I got an email from CPW and said, "You were successful on your bighorn sheep application." I went, "Yeah, you know what? I don't really care."
Yeah, God knew you were having a hard day. He said, "All right, here's a bone, God."
Yeah, but it definitely has changed. I still like to do it, but it's almost more stress on me now it's definitely more stress than it ever has been. It's like, because my dad has learned all these spots over the course of his life being here, and it's like seeing people in there where you've never seen people before. It'll kind of rock, but that's the beauty and the beast of public lands. You just can't control it,
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. So I wanted to set up this, with the whole shed hunting spiel. What can a guy learn by finding elk antlers about where they're going to be in September?
Okay, so this is like, they go through huge migrations, the elk and the deer. I mean, we've got collar data from our basin that shows them going over the top of North Pass and ending up in Swatch. And for you guys that don't know where that is, I mean, you're going from the Gunnison Basin over, an 11,000 foot pass onto the other side, and they're wintering on the other side, and then they're coming back. And some of them are staying, but some of them are coming back. So, I mean, you're having huge migration. So the thing about the shed hunting may do you some good for the late seasons, for third, fourth season rifle, but it's not going to do you much good for the earlier seasons, just because they're going to be in completely different places. Like, there are definitely some resident elk that will live in spots and not make that huge migration that other elk are doing. But you're kind of looking, those elk are spending the summer at 10,000 to 12,000 feet, and then they're coming down to about 9,500 throughout the winter to shed their antlers. So it doesn't do you much good. I think it's beneficial for people to just get out and walk, see the country, see where there's water holes, see where there's habitat. Boots on the ground is way better. E-scouting is amazing now, but I mean, there's nothing better than boots on the ground being in there, and there was a bull that a friend of ours brought in last year. He's a cowboy, and he's riding through his cows, picked up a nice big 7-point elk shed. And my buddy and I actually went in there where he found it, and first season. And his name is Scott. He's a good friend of mine, but he had this first season tag. And so we go in there, and I start kind of calling as we're walking up this hill. And this is like 30 minutes into opening day. And this bull is just lighting up, and I'm like, holy crap. So I'm like, let's try and close the distance. Let's try and get in on this bull. And so we get into these dog hair quakies. I mean, everything is just so tight. He's got this long range rifle that'll shoot 1,000 yards, and we're in the freaking trees. You can't see 20 feet in front of you. And we have to stop because that bull is coming in, and he's screaming his head off. And I know it's that bull because the cowboy had seen him again. And we are completely surrounded by elk before I even know what happens. And that bull's still in the back, still not giving us a shot. Can't see him. And Raghorn bull comes in, and my buddy is looking back at me while I'm calling, and he's going, "Should I shoot him?" And I'm like, "No, don't. Just wait. Wait. That bull's coming in. Like, just wait just a little bit." And that bull is probably 15 yards from him. And so we're sitting there, and all of a sudden the cows start feeding towards me, and they get downwind of me, and they start to bust. And that little Raghorn busts and runs 5 to 10 feet in front of my buddy. And like I said, he's got a gun that'll shoot 1,000 yards, pulls up his gun, just sees hair, looks down the barrel, freaking nails him with a and you know what? Like in a unit like that, like I would have loved for him to kill that big bull. I'd have loved for him to see that big bull. But as soon as they started to bust out, that's all I was saying was shoot him. Because in a unit like that, you may not get another chance at an elk. Yeah, it would have been great to get that big bull, but after they busted us, that was it. He was going to shut up the rest of the year, and we weren't going to see him again. So he freaking pounded that elk at 5 feet with his long range rifle and got toppled over at about 15 yards. And and that was one of those ones where that bull, he was a resident bull in an aspen patch, and so that bull that shed his antler the year before right there was the same bull that was in there during first season, and everybody in the world was driving right by that, going to the high country. So you are looking for a needle in a haystack when you're looking for something down in those transition zones. But if you find them, it's a good deal. They haven't been messed with, and that's that. Like if those bulls would have been messed with during archery season, they wouldn't have been there first rifle.
Yeah. Okay. So
I think it can do you a little good there.
This is something I'm kind of foreign to because I've really only archery hunted elk. I've been on a couple rifle hunts with limited to no success, actually. But I'm really surprised that you can get them up and going that much. And I mean, first rifle is in October, right?
Yeah, it's pretty late. And this is the thing that people I don't know if they understand it or overlook it or what. But if I could pick a day out of the year to hunt elk, it would be October 1st.
Wow.
Like, absolutely. Because the reason why they structure the seasons the way they do is because it gives them a chance to rut and breed.
Uh-huh.
So you are, you're during September, you get some of those bulls that'll fire up early. I've been in the same unit 30 miles apart and had bulls with 25 cows screaming their heads off, and then gone to the other side of the unit the next day, and there's 3 bulls in a bachelor group. So you never know what's going to trigger that, when it's going to trigger. But yeah, you are honestly closer to the rut most of the time that first season than you are earlier. And that is our state specifically, and probably the Gunnison Basin specifically. If you're in a more desert climate, those bulls are going to rut earlier because they can have calves earlier. But in a place like this, where the winter is going to hang on a lot longer, those cows have to calve when it's manageable snow levels, so that rut kind of gets pushed later. So you're better off to hunt the last 2 weeks of archery and even that first season. I mean, that first season can be awesome, but I've also had, first seasons where there's absolutely nothing. They're not talking. They've already broken off. But it kind of depends year to year if you can get those bulls fired up. But I like to try. There's no harm in trying if you've got the tag. And I mean, elk talk all year long, so you can still get especially those little raghorns during first season. If you guys just want to kill a bull, and those raghorns that have been getting their asses kicked and haven't bred a cow all season, and they hear a cow call first season, they're like, "What?" And they freaking come running in, man.
So you think that, like, if a guy wants to go on an elk hunt, doesn't really know what's much about it at all, that really the way to do it is to maybe get a point or two and try to find a first season tag and go on a rifle hunt?
I would, for sure. I mean, I think it's all dependent on, if there's a lot of guys that are like, nope, I want to kill a bull with my bow. That's, that's just what I want to do. And so for those guys, that's not going to be the hunt. I think you're better off. I'm one of those guys. I mean, I've hunted OTC elk one time, I think. I mean, I'm trying to get into units that I can draw every year, every other year, but I still think the quality of the hunt's a little better because the numbers of people are limited. When you're hunting an OTC tag, there is no limit to how many people can be out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would much rather, and there are definitely good OTC opportunities. Like there's some guys that kill some slobs in OTC units, but none of them around here are OTC for archery. They're OTC for rifle, but not archery. So it's like, I want to hunt the stuff I know. It's hard to step into a unit, and you guys know that, like not knowing anything about it and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Are there guys that kill slobs in OTC units somewhat consistently that are not locals?
I mean, I'm sure there are. We get to see a lot of them. There was one guy from Pennsylvania, and he shot. Good for him, but I was so pissed off. He shot 380 bull. His first time coming to archery elk hunt here. And 380 for this country is a giant. They do not get that big here, just because we've got the OTC seasons, they just don't necessarily have a chance to grow up. There are a few that slip through the cracks, obviously, but man, he came up here from Pennsylvania, rented a Jeep, drove up opening weekend, shot this 380 bull and was headed back home. And it's like, geez, for some people it's as easy as that, but then there's guys like me that have been hunting for a long time, and I've never killed a 300-inch bull, which is embarrassing to say, but it's just I've never even had a chance at one. It's never worked out in my favor. I've seen them, but I've never had them in bow range, never had them in rifle range. So it's, but you never know when it's going to be your year.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is like we just had a conversation about this same thing with a guy talking about deer though, or whitetails, but. A lot of people don't realize. Let's see, we were hunting OTC in 2017, and one of Casey's real good buddies was there on the hunt with us, Brennan, and Brennan shot a 6x6 that was like in the 290s. It's not a 300-inch bull, but dude, we were like freaking out. This thing was huge. Like a lot of people don't realize how big a 300-inch bull is. You see dudes, going to the Navajo reservation and shooting 360s all the time, and it's like, that's just a different world. It's not. That's not the average bull.
No, definitely not. And that's the thing around here. Like I tell people that most of the time, if you get a legal bull, there's other units that are better for sure, but if you get a legal bull, you better freaking take that, because that might be your only chance all season, And with more people calling and more pressure, those elk, they just don't necessarily act like elk. And in some units they do. I've been in some units in Colorado where it is just bugle fest. Absolutely crazy. But around here with all the pressure, it just doesn't seem to happen that way. It takes a long time to get a bull fired up. I can call it a bull for 45 minutes before I finally get him to turn around and come at me. If I can see him.
Yeah. Are those bugle fest units usually, that doesn't happen in OTC really, does it?
No, you can get into pockets. Like there was one year this was a bad deal, but I was a senior in college, I think, and I decided to draw an archery deer tag, draw an archery elk tag, and a bear tag, which is in September. It's a rifle tag, but it's in September. And I was like, perfect. I'll shoot at anything that moves, like anything I see, I will get a shot at it. So I've been glassing this deer for 2 weeks, and he was like 190-inch deer, really, really nice buck, just a clean, typical. And I watched him for 2 weeks, and I didn't bring my elk calls on purpose because I was like, I am hunting deer and I've got to focus on deer. I'll kill this deer and then I'll worry about elk. So I get over there, and there's a 315 bull with about 25 cows, 500 yards below me. A big 5x5 with about 15 cows up above me, and they're probably, 700 yards apart. And they are just absolutely screaming, and I don't have any calls. And I'm like, cool, this is perfect, and so I've seen these deer cross over this one saddle. So I was like, I'm going to wait here. This is my only chance, I'll see if I can stick this bull. So I get that 5-point in his cows, and they're all coming up. Wind's good. I can hear them coming through the shale below me, and I've got everything ranged. I'm ready to go. And I hear something behind me, and one cow was and came behind me, and she busted and started running down. All of them took off and started running down. So yeah, that was one of those instances. I would not pair up tags anymore because I wasted so much time chasing elk when I should have been deer. I will never do that again, because it tears you, you know, like you can't help it if you see a big bull and you got to go chase him, you know. You're up there looking for deer, but if I would have freaking brought my calls, then might have been a different story, you know, but I'm an idiot. I was a senior in college. I've learned a lot since then.
Dude, we say that. We have the exact same saying around here a lot.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
That's the Element tagline.
I am an idiot.
So, I'm not going to challenge your hunting style by any means, because you kill way more stuff than me, but why do you feel like you had to have calls to go kill one of those bulls?
Just because of them being paired up with that many cows, like the eyes on them, you know, and they were in a pretty big open field, like on the fringe of timberline in the pines. So like I couldn't sneak in with that many eyes looking around me to get in on them. And I figured that was my best option, was just to ambush them and see what happens. But I know that if I had my calls there, I could have at least interested them. You know, I don't know if I'd have been able to pull those bulls away, but I think that I would have obviously had a better chance to pull them away.
Yeah.
But that was the story I was talking about with hunting on the other side of the unit. So the next day, some guy came in the store and told me he saw a big buck, and you know, you never know what somebody's definition of what a big buck is. So I go over there and I tell my wife, I go, here, throw the 15s up. I said, see if there's anything up there. She goes, two bulls. And I'm like, okay, get the spotter on them. And one of them is a freaking, probably that's probably the biggest bull I've ever had a chance at. And he's like a 7x6 black horn, and he was with two other bulls. And so they weren't no rut activity whatsoever. So I watched where they bettered. And this is like, I don't have this spot and stock ground practice at that point, right? So I start getting up there. I slip into my socks, and I'm creeping through the timber just trying to figure out where they were. Well, I freaking busted them out of there at about 10 yards, and I had no idea they were sitting there. And that, in that situation, my calls wouldn't have helped. You know, they're not ready for that. If they would have heard a cow call, they would have went the other way, because they would have just figured something was up, you know. And so in that instance, it wouldn't. But knowing now what I didn't know then about, you know, spot and stock, like with what I learned archery, deer, and antelope this year, is they will get up. You know, they're going to get up a ton of times throughout the day. So if I would have been smart about that, I'd have got close, and I would have waited for them to either hear movement or see them stand or do whatever, then make my move, because they're making a lot more noise when they're up and feeding, obviously, than they are when they're just laying there. You know, when they're laying there, they are in full, you know, predator evasion mode. So that's kind of what I learned with deer last year, was they will stand up, and it does you no good to get in their bedroom at first light, because they could have moved in the middle of the night and you have no idea where they went, but they will get up again. So you glass them, watch them bed, get close, wait for them to stand, make your stock. So that's, if you see a bull that has zero rut activity like that, spot and stock him. Do not try and call at him.
Yeah.
He's not ready for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Especially whenever you don't get to listen to elk all year long, so maybe your cow call sounds sweet and maybe it doesn't, you know. You know, that's kind of probably an appealing thing to a lot of guys who, you know, might be in pretty good shape, or a younger type dude. And that's always kind of been my take on stuff too. Now I do have the dad bod going a little bit now, and it's kind of
me too. It's beer belly.
Yeah, it's a struggle, man. But either way, you know, toughness and a little grit, you kind of feel like you can overcome some things. And the concept of you know, finding elk up high is intriguing, because you might, once you put your eyes on something, man, you feel like you've done half the work, right? Like, you know, absolutely. A lot of my hunting is walking around through aspens and dark timber, just, you know, calling and hoping something is 80 yards away and I can't see it. You know, that's really what it's like. So, you know, what are like maybe some of the concepts of finding those elk up around that tree line stuff? Is that going to be an early season thing, or is that later when they get pushed up there?
Definitely. No, that's going to be early. I mean, they'll go up there. They'll go all summer up there, and then once they start feeling the pressure, then they'll hit the trees, you know. But you if you can catch one of those bulls that hasn't been messed with and is kind of on that fringe, you're in a lot better shape. But I mean, just like the high country deer, you mess up a couple stocks and you're not going to see that again. You may get a second one if you're lucky, but that first one, you really got to make that count. And that was the problem with that 7x6 is I blew it. I didn't even know what I was doing. It's like, I was just thinking that, I was going to sneak up on them, see them standing there broadside at 20 yards, and they bed in spots to protect themselves from predators. I mean, that's their entire purpose in life is to evade predators, so you have to think about it from that perspective. And like my deer last year, I shot him at 19 yards, but I could not get a shot on him until he stood up. So I had to wait there for an hour and a half, 2 hours at 19 yards to wait for him to stand up.
Oh, man.
That's what they do is they bed in spots where they're going to protect their vitals. The wind is right. They got their ears pinned back and they're going to evade. But elk are a lot easier to sneak up on because they are bigger animals. They're going to make a lot more noise and they're a lot less scared of, stuff moving around behind them, I guess. I mean, they're used to noises. So elk, you're going to have a better opportunity sneaking in if you as long as the wind's right. Like, I know the unscented deal is big, and I do it as like I don't even know, just like a superstition thing, I guess. But
every little bit counts.
Matter.
Yeah.
If the wind's wrong, the wind's wrong. It doesn't matter. You can have on everything in the world, and if you're downwind from or upwind from a bull, you're gonna blow them out. So that's the thing is you just got to make sure that your wind is right on every stalking opportunity. And a lot of times with elk, it's swirling. You're in a basin and it's going left, it's going right, it's coming at you. So it's really hard to kind of play that wind, but you have to make sure that because once you can step on a stick and break it, you can bring your bow on a tree, but man, when they get that scent, they're gone.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about stalking elk. And seeing them like a spot and stalk situation, we're seeing them above tree line. But what about the guy who's going to go try to get in the rut action in a little bit later September? And like, is there any reason to kind of employ the same tactic, except for like Casey was saying, you're finding dark timber on north face or whatever, and you kind of get in there close and you just glass that area. You don't make any calls. You try to find elk that are bedded in dark timber, and then you spot and stalk from there. Is that a dumb thing to do? Should you be making cow calls or
like I said, elk are making vocalizations all year. So like if you're not over calling, I don't see it as a problem. As long as you're not just chirping on it all the time. Like I like to give a couple. If I'm walking through timber at all, I like to give cow calls because, it sounds a little more realistic than, what you're doing otherwise. And so I think that if you're in it, but if you see a bull and you think you can stalk in on him, if he doesn't have so many eyes around him with cows or other bulls or whatever, sneak in and stick him. There's no reason to call at that point. But if you get a bull with 20 cows, you're not going to sneak in on them. That's just the way it is. You got to catch those bulls like alone or in groups of 2 or something like that. So at that point, he's rutting, he's already with cows. So at that point you can start calling,
Mm. So if you did see that bull with a bunch of cows, like, are you able to pull him away with just a straight up cow call, or do you need to challenge him, or how do you approach that?
No, I hardly ever challenge them. I mean, especially in units like this. I mean, you're going to scare that bull away by challenging him more times than not. So what I like to do is close the distance and cow call. Like you get in close enough, and he might just be curious enough to come check it out. If you're calling it 400 yards, he's probably going to be like, I'm good. I got 20 of them. I'm fine. But I mean, if you get within 80 yards, he's going to come check it out. So that's kind of what I like to do. If I hear them bugle, I don't want to make any noise until I get closer, and then I may try to locate bugle again. So I will bugle, but I call it the little biatch bugle, and give him a little little squeaky bugle, to just to try and locate them. So once they locate them, all I'm trying to do, just like turkeys for you guys, you're just trying to get them to give up their position. Once they give up their position, get as close as you can without busting them out, and keep making that until you get in their bedroom and you can kind of sweet talk them in. I mean, you want to sound like what I always picture is I want to sound like a raghorn bull with like a couple cows. Like I want that bull to want to steal those cows from that guy. So I'm not necessarily going to challenge him, but if that bull knows that he can kick this little squirt's ass and take the 2 cows, he might come in,
Yeah.
So what's the, like, if you're not trying to kill the biggest herd bull you can and you're just trying to kill a bull, what's the easiest bull to kill? Is it the lovesick rag, or is it?
Definitely.
Yeah, you think so?
Definitely the lovesick rag. They get zero action. It's like if they get the opportunity to do it, for sure. But the bigger bulls, they're pretty comfortable with the amount of cows they have. And it's a lot harder to pull those bulls away because they know it's a risk. They've been hunted enough where they know that's risk. And so they're a little bit harder than the raghorn bulls are. And a lot of those raghorn bulls are going to get kicked off of these groups that they've been with. So you may catch one cruising through alone. That's a bull got kicked off the group and you catch him moving through and you can shoot him.
Yeah.
He's on the move for cows now because he knows he's not going to get those. So, I guess that would have been, probably 3-4 years ago. I had been hunting like 14, 15 in ELK because they're in the timber. And I am sitting there taking a nap on this ridge and it's just blowing about 40 miles an hour. So I get up, I try to bugle, and then I'm like, no, this is pointless. They can't hear me, nothing. So I lay back down, take a nap, wake up about an hour later and bugle once. Bull bugles, move in about 50 yards, cow call it. He is freaking on the line, man, and runs into 20 yards. And I shoot him, and he's nice. He's probably in that 280 6x6, but it's like you never know when that's going to happen. I was so discouraged at that point. Yeah. I'm like, what in the world am I doing wrong? I have been working my ass off trying to find something, and then that's the thing about elk hunting. Like, it is very easy to get discouraged, but don't get discouraged because you never know when it's going to change. It can change in an instant. And then you have a minute long deal that is like the best hunting you've ever had in your life, but it only lasts that long,
Yeah. I don't know if I've told you this story or not. I know you probably hear everybody's hunting story doing what you do for a living, but, in 2018, I had just one of those just tough years, got into some elk, and it was me and my parents, missed a bull, and then 4 days later shot a bull high in the shoulder, tracked him for 10 hours, finally lost blood, he didn't make, I'm sorry, he didn't, it wasn't a lethal shot, and I was just down on myself, and that was pretty much the last day was the day we were in there trying to recover that bull, after we'd let him sit all night, and just down on myself. And I pretty much was just like, okay, I'm taking my release off, whatever. And, my mom and my dad were with me. My mom was hunting too. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to try to call in my mama bull on the way out of here. But I didn't actually take my release off. It was just the figure of speech there. But, and I was just half-hearted, just kind of pretty much walking back to the truck. And it was literally the next morning we were going to pack camp up, right? And just throwing a couple cow calls out, heard like a little kind of up the hill. And then galloping in comes this 6x6, that 270 kind of bull, and he runs into 40 yards, smells us, runs out another 10 yards, and my mom can't shoot 50 yards, and there we go,
freaking smoked him.
Smoked city, dude. No rangefinder or nothing. Threw it up 50 yards and ripped him,
Yeah,
and
I know.
It's nuts
it just
how
happened so quick, man.
Yeah, and that happened in 15 seconds, and that changed that season because it would have been a sob story for me if it hadn't been for 15 seconds of elk hunting. It's
Definitely.
crazy.
Yeah, and that's what people got to understand. Like, like, I mean, it's easy, like looking on Instagram and stuff and Facebook and seeing all these big bulls and seeing these people calling out. And, you know, it's not like that. It is definitely more of a grind, and you got to put your time in. I mean, you may not kill a bull every year. I've been fortunate to, you know, kill bulls back to back to back or whatever, but it's like, it doesn't happen. Then you go through a drought and you don't kill anything, you know? So it's like, you got to put in your time. You gotta come here. And if you don't come here, come next year. We got these friends from Wisconsin, and they come out every year. And I think it was their 4th year that one of them killed a bull. You know, they have been like, I mean, they stay up and drink scotch a lot. You know, they stay up pretty late, but they do work hard, you know, and they really want to kill a bull, and they finally ended up killing one. And I mean, usually that's about what it is you're going to kill one in 4 years, you know, especially the experienced guys are going to, you know, harvest more frequently than that. But in a place like we're at in Gunnison, I mean, if you can kill a bull once every 4 years as a non-resident, I mean, that's pretty good. Yeah. And that's a lot of time to commit. But if you really want to kill an elk, it may happen the first 5 minutes of your very first hunt, or it may take 5 years. You know, there's just no rhyme or reason. You just got to be right place, right time.
Yeah. What do you think is if you were to say when you kill an elk, what does that hunt typically look like for you? Like, is it a morning? Is it an evening? And talk about like what happens leading up to that.
Okay, yeah. So I love to hunt in the mornings. I love to glass in the mornings. I love to shoot my bow in the mornings. Like, I love everything about mornings. I swear I've killed 90% of my stuff in the evening.
Really?
Like, I always think I'm going to kill something in the morning, and I think I've killed one bull in the morning, and then everything else that I've killed has been like, you know, in the afternoon or at night. So, I mean, I don't think one's better than the other. It just seems like that's the time that it's worked out for me, you know, and at that point it kind of sucks because you don't have all day to cut it up and pack it out. It's like you got all night. And the last bull that I shot with my bow, I was like 3 miles back by myself, and I had an in-reach, and I texted my dad. I said, bull down. And he said, cool, I'll be out there in the morning to help you. And so I got a front quarter and the back straps in my pack, and I walked down to my truck and throw it in the truck, get in the truck, and then I look in the mirror. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen 8 Seconds. I'm sure you have. But, you know, when he looks at himself in the mirror and calls himself a puss, that's what I did. And so I dumped my pack and walked back up there and did two more trips. But the second one, when I was going back up there for the second trip, my GPS had not marked where I was, I guess. It was like 25, 30 yards away, and it's pitch black. I can't tell where it is. So I have to go to where I shot him, find the blood trail, find my bull again. I was like, okay, I'm not doing that again. So I loaded everything I could on my pack. So that would have been the front, hinds, tenderloins, and neck. And then I took hind quarter in my left hand, and then the head in my right hand, and I was walking through the trees in the dark trying to go to the trail because I knew there was a trail down there. So I was like, if I get it to the trail, then that way, you know, at least when I come up for my third trip, it'll be better. Man, that bull kept hooking on all these trees, and I'd fall over, and I'm like a turtle on my back, and I got to drop everything, pull my backpack off, start from scratch, finally get it to the trail. And I didn't get out till with the third trip to like 3:30, 4 in the morning, and then I ended up driving home, and it took me about 2 hours to get home, and the sun was coming up as I was coming back to the house, you know. So it was a long night, but I wanted to prove it to myself that I could do it, you know. So that's the only problem with those evening hunts is it's you know, and I know there's predators out there watching me, you know. The smell of fresh blood from 7 o'clock until 4 o'clock in the morning, you know. I know there was stuff around, but you just can't worry about it, you know.
Yeah, you can if you're me.
It's your time, man.
I psych myself out. I tell myself that black bears ain't no big deal, and I don't want you to tell me otherwise. So don't even worry about it.
No, the black bears. I mean, I really don't worry about the black bears that much, and I honestly don't worry about the mountain lions because I'm like, man, if a mountain lion decides to kill me, it's going to be over before I even knew it happened. So
That's right.
it's all good.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, man, is, I've hunted up there, and I've never seen hide nor hair of a cat, but they're around.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
They're
weird
watching,
thing.
yeah.
I mean, you see bear scat everywhere, bear
Yeah.
sign is in. It's like, man, those cats are out there too, and you just don't even know that they're around. That's kind of a weird deal. But
the last elk hunt that I guided, there was I was doing first season, and he's actually my second hunter of the first season, because my first guy killed a bull. I called him in a bull on opening day, and he shot it. And then I took this other guy on. He's from Texas, and we go into this place that is just always giving me the creeps. Like you're at at 11,000 feet, and you're like up against these big, huge cliff faces all the way up to these peaks, and dark timber. And we get up there, and it starts kind of snowing on us. I mean, it's October 14th, so it's kind of spitting snow on us. And we're sitting there, and last night, and I'm like, all right, we're just looking for that lone bull, So I just kind of started doing a lost cow call every once in a while, just trying to see if I could get something in. And I hear something to our left, and my hunter goes, "Did you hear that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I heard it." I'm like, "Get your gun ready," because I figured it was a bull. A lot of times they'll come in silent without even saying anything. So I tell him to get his gun ready. Goes away, don't think anything of it. Get up at dark, and at this point, it's like dumping snow, and it's getting dark on us. And I get up to start walking back to the horses, and there are cat tracks 10 feet behind where we were sitting in the snow.
Whoa.
And it came into that lost cow call, and I never saw it. Never saw it. There was poop right in the middle of the trail. Had a little bit of a rodeo when the horses stepped over it, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like you don't see them, you don't hear them, you don't see them. I mean, the only reason we heard them is because there was already snow on the ground, and it was a little bit crunchy on top. So I mean, he may have punched through once, but within 15 yards, when it's dead quiet like that, you'll be able to hear them. But yeah, they are definitely watching you.
Well, I'm creeped out now.
Yep.
So,
And it was funny because honestly, I was so jacked. I was so excited. I'm like, that is freaking cool. I'm like, we just called it a cat 10 feet behind us. We lived to tell this, and my hunter from Texas was freaking out, man.
Yep.
He was not having a good time. He kept looking over his shoulders on his horse, looking back. And I'm like, dude, honestly, you may not have killed a bull, but you're going to go back home and be like, we got stalked by a cat.
yeah, that's a good story.
That's way more badass than killing a bull. It's like, that's an adrenaline rush that you can't beat right there.
Yeah, that's freaking cool, man. Well, are you actually going to elk hunt this year?
I'm going to take another year off of elk, which is kind of sucks. I really do want to hunt elk, but I think I'm going to try and pick up a rifle tag. I got a buddy that has a rifle deer tag, and I kind of like to pair it with that, you know. But my deer season is going to go September 2nd through September 30th, archery season. And then I've got a friend from Florida who has a first season tag that I'm going to go with. Second season, my sister-in-law has a deer tag. Third season, a good friend of ours that lives here has a deer tag. And then fourth season, my friend has a deer tag. So if I can pair one of those seasons up with an elk tag when I'm helping them out, I'll probably do it. But otherwise, I gotta kill this dang deer, dude.
Hey, you gotta kill a sheep, dude. What? Come on.
Yep. But the problem is the sheep isn't until October. It's October 15th.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I thought the archery sheep started early, but it's actually later.
Yeah, this year they added a new season. So it used to be, well, it still is. They've still got an August season when you're hunting, big bands or bachelor groups or rams. But mine's a red hunt. So
yeah, that's cool though. That's
see what happens there. But the problem is there's people in there before me. I found the ram I want to shoot, and it's like, well, I got to wait for 5 other guys.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I mean that's super advantageous as far as having the leaves fall and be able to actually spot sheep. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So I just want to put priority on that. Because it's going to be. I won't be able, if I kill a ram, I won't be able to put in for 2 years. And then after that, I have to get 3 points to be eligible in the draw again. Yeah. So, I mean, it'll be quite a while before I draw another sheep tag if I ever do. It's a total lottery. So I really got to focus on that and make that happen for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I've been rooting you on ever since we saw that you drew that thing, because that's just absolutely crazy. And
what a lucky dog,
dude! I'm telling you, man. Golly. Well, you said you got to kill this deer. You have a specific buck you were looking for last year that you still didn't get on. Is that right?
No, I mean I've got a decent deer that I found. He's a mature old deer. He's got some non-typical stuff going on, but his frame's not quite there. So I'm still looking for the one.
Yeah, I got you. Golly, man, that's cool.
But having a 6-month-old daughter, love her to death. But man, she cuts into my scouting time.
You're telling me you understand. I'm just a couple months behind you, man, and I love him, but I did not get to go out west for the summer this year for the first time in quite a while, and it's been. My parents, my parents came by and saw you the other day, so they got to go up there and do a bunch of cool stuff, and I had to live vicariously through their Facebook posts. So,
definitely no, it is the coolest thing that I've ever experienced. But I gotta really structure my days from. I'm like, all right, so I can go scouting on these days, I can shoot my bow on these days. It's like, man. She cut into it big time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the craziest thing, we were kind of joking about it a while ago, but I think fitness has been the most difficult thing for me, because I mean, really, it's kind of a selfish act. I mean, if I can use that word lightly, to go and take an hour and a half just for yourself, whenever you're a new dad, and say, I need to go outside and work out. You know what I mean? Or whatever. It's a real hard thing to make happen. And,
for sure.
And I've done it some, but, honestly, what ends up happening is whenever I do take that time, I spend half of my time when I should be, exercising on the phone, doing business, or messing around, scouting for hunts or whatever, because you're just trying to condense any time you have to just multitask. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just decided this year, I'm like, do I want to shoot my bow or work out? And I was like, well, obviously shoot my bow. I'm just going to keep drinking beer and shoot my bow, and I'll be fine.
Well, you have that body type where you don't have to worry about it too much. Were you a college athlete?
Yeah, I played football at Western Colorado University, and it's in Gunnison, and I ended up having to stop playing because of the concussions. I got quite a few in high school, and so I ended up having to step away from that, which was unfortunate. But I went there to play quarterback.
Yeah, I thought I remembered you telling me that, but I couldn't remember for sure.
Yeah, and I saw a picture of you tackling Emmanuel Sanders. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was Tyler. Yeah. He
lighting him up. Oh, that was Tyler?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Tyler lighting him up.
Yeah, the coaches weren't too happy about that. But I did not give 2 cents at that point in my life about that at all. I was not in the game of getting burnt. That was for sure.
Yeah. Oh no, I get it. Yeah, that was funny. Is he as little as he looks on the field, or when you get him around normal sized people, is he pretty normal sized?
Yeah, he's I think he was like 170s. Probably, I don't know, 5'10" kind of guy.
But fast as sin.
Oh my gosh, dude! There was never a time. I promise you, if I lined up against him in one-on-ones 100 plays in a row, he would beat me 100 plays in a row. Like there was never a time I could ever.
Until the ball's in the air and you freaking light him up, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Man, the quarterback threw it just a touch behind him.
That's awesome.
No, I played with actually several guys that played in the NFL, and a few that are still in the NFL today, including Emmanuel.
Cool.
So yeah, but Emmanuel was the best receiver I ever went against, and luckily he was on my team.
Yeah.
But
that doesn't surprise me.
He got overthrown last year on a play late in the game that would have maybe changed the Super Bowl outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
He was overthrown on a deep ball, which is hard to do with him.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, he most of the time can get underneath it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's cool, dude. I didn't know you played ball in college, man. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it was cool. I'm very thankful that I ended up here, because when you grow up in Gunnison, you kind of just take it for granted. You're like, every place in the world is like this, and I was talking to the offensive coordinator at University of Nebraska in Kearney. It's their affiliate. And that's where I wanted to go for whatever reason. I don't know why, but he ended up getting the head coaching position at a college called Mesa, that's in Grand Junction, about 3 hours west of us. And so he tried to get me to come there, and I didn't want to go there because, man, for a mountain boy, that we're playing on AstroTurf in 95-degree weather, that is not my thing. So I ended up, getting the scholarship at the college here and decided to stay. And then when I had to stop playing football, I was obviously distraught. Like, that had been my life for so long, but hunting was also a part of my life, and I didn't get to do it as much because I was always playing football in the fall. So at that point, I was able to really immerse myself in hunting. And if I would have been in Kearney, Nebraska, God knows what I would have done. It's like go walk around through the cornfields. I don't know. So here, at least I had opportunities to kind of, there's a lot of things that I was able to do around here to kind of get my mind off football for that first year.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. That was the thing for me. And I played in Dallas. And so like basically a desert of wildlife, you know what I mean? Like a massive desert of fishing and hunting and that kind of thing. I would try to look on maps like Google Earth and stuff and try to find like ponds or something that I could go catch fish in and like be there in like 30 minutes, which, in Dallas, that might be like 3 miles away. So it's just, that's the one thing that I definitely like struggled with there, was that there was like no outdoor release for like 5 years there for me. It was just like football, and I would like sit in my room and tie flies late at night and be the weird reclusive guy, or whatever in my dorm.
Man, so. It's a lot of work though. Like, that's what people don't understand is, man, especially like I was one of those guys, like I realized I wasn't going to go pro. Mm-hmm. Like I knew that, and man, when I had to stop playing, I calculated it out. I'm like, whoa, like, you're doing weights, and we did study hall and film and practice. And it's like, it adds like, up to a lot of hours a day.
It's like 330 days a year too. It's like, you're literally just always doing something up there at the stadium,
Definitely, yeah, and it's a full-time job that you don't get paid a full-time wage for.
That's right, man. It's crazy.
It's fun. You do it for the love of the game, for sure. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot different playing in high school than it is in college, and there's a lot of people that just don't make it. But I don't know. This is kind of off tangent, but my college roommate, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Austin Eckler. He's starting for the Chargers this year. But he played football here at Western.
Cool.
And he is an absolute freak of nature. Like, came from a high school of 300 kids, didn't get any D1 offers, and he runs like a 4.40 and 40 some inch vertical, and just an absolute freak. But check him out. It sucks that he's in the AFC West against the Broncos, but it's pretty cool to watch him play.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is
man.
cool, dude. Well, I can't imagine doing all those football workouts at 7,703 feet. So,
no, dude, I'd rather do it at that in 70 degrees than freaking 90. There's no way.
Dude,
that's true. We had some crispy practices back in the day.
We did, man. I can remember. Because we were dark blue in high school, and then when I went to SMU, we were also like even darker blue. And so like it would be like 108 in Dallas, and like the concrete jungle is just radiating heat around you, and you've got this microwave oven of navy blue on your head, And it's like, dude, this is brutal.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, but the elevation, like, we don't. Like, growing up here, you don't think about it, like, you're just acclimated no matter what. So it doesn't matter. But I remember the first time I really saw elevation was, I'd been working out with the team all summer, like getting out of my senior year of high school. And this kid stepped off the plane from Dallas, and he was a transfer kid from a junior college. And fastest kid. This kid built like Emmanuel Sanders, just long, lean. And we were doing an agility drill. Like, we weren't even doing 300-yard shuttles. We weren't doing whatever. We were just doing cone drills. And man, that first time I lined up against him and he just kicked my ass, and I was embarrassed. I'm like, this guy is just beating me. Second time we went to go, and he was laying on the ground throwing up.
Oh man,
like it hit him that quick that it was like he went from, I don't know what Dallas's elevation is, but yeah, it was 7,700 feet, and I was like, wow, elevation is real. Like, I never really realized that,
Yeah, it is. That's why I pant whenever I walk around your store.
Exactly. Yeah.
That and the fact he's just salivating from the mounts.
Yeah, I just had to look at a crocodile in the eyeball, Oh yeah. Well, dude, I really appreciate all the great knowledge that you have and just the cool experiences you can share with people. If people want to know more kind of about what you do on a daily basis, or check out some of the sweet stuff y'all have going on there in Gunnison, where can they check y'all out at?
Colorado Antlers on Instagram. I think at Colorado Antlers, Traders Rendezvous on Facebook. That's kind of our hunting page. Like, that's where we post all of our hunting, fishing adventures. The Instagram for inventory at the store or stuff we have for sale at the store is going to be Traders Rendezvous on Instagram. But yeah, that's where you can kind of check us out and see what we're getting ourselves into. And yeah, like I said, I am an idiot, so I don't know if you want to follow me, but go ahead and check it out anyways.
No, you're a good follow, dude. I really like following you during hunting season because, I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, I don't remember, but you were like kind of letting everybody in on your whole despair of a hunt or something, and kind of doing the whole self-loathing thing that we all do. It was just.
I know, yeah, and I like people to see that. I like people to see that there's real emotions that go into hunting. Like, a lot of the stuff you see is just superficial. Like, oh yeah, did this, and it's like, man, it's a grind. Like, it'll really beat you down, but then when those moments happen, you know what it's all worth, So I think it's important for people to take the downs with as much gravity as they take the ups. It's important to kind of self-evaluate and try new tactics and do stuff like that. So yeah, if people are struggling doing stuff, it is just as important to learn what not to do as what to do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. Crushing, not hushing, right?
Yeah, crushing, not hushing. No flat bills here, bro.
That's right, dude. No, for real, you got some of the best hats in Colorado. I can vouch for that, man, for sure.
Yeah, I love seeing it on that Gila hunt when you guys were driving there. I wish I still would have been on that hunt, but
man, we should have. I don't know why we didn't tell you to come, dude. I was like, we're not cool enough for Connor to hang out with,
No, dude. I'd have been down there in a second. Those big Ponderosa stands. I would have been through those miserable rainstorms with you guys.
Well, if anybody ever draws again, we'll all three go for sure, dude.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, you guys will know it because I think that I want to put in for New Mexico, but the scary part is you got to be ready to go, man. If you put in for a tag, you got to be ready to pay it and go.
That's right, dude. That's right. And that was kind of the thing. It's like, we're going to the Gila this year. It's kind of
exactly.
all plans are off. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. We'll do it, dude. It's time. Now's the time because it's only going to get harder from here on out, especially after the Element crew put the big spotlight on it. You know what I mean? So.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, didn't have a reputation before that, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, cool, dude. Well, hey, if you're listening, stop by Traders Rendezvous. It's on the main drag there in Gunnison. Check out some of the cool stuff they got going on. Across the street, there's a farmer's market. It's got some pretty good cherries. Check them out, too.
Yeah, that's my buddies Arno and Johan over there.
Dude, that's one of the Chasi, whenever she found out that my parents were in Gunnison, that she was like, they're hanging out with Connor? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, be sure and tell them to go across the street to the farmer's market.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Arno and Johan, they brought me some roasted green chilies the other day, so I'm good on breakfast for a while.
That's nice, dude. Nice. That's nice stuff. Well, awesome, man. Thanks for hanging out and chatting with us on a late night, and we'll talk to you soon, dude.
No problem, guys. Let me know when you guys draw those tags.
We will. Now that was some killer info. Don't forget to subscribe, and a 5-star review means a ton to us.
Remember, this is your element.
Living it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer is going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.